This is a brief instructional video about using some basic features on the Metronic paradigm pump. The pump has several components. The battery goes right in here. Your 3-day supply of insulin goes in here. On the back, you can see where the battery case goes in. This takes a AAA battery. The battery generally lasts about 10 days to 2 weeks. And you also have a visual component of where you can see that there's how much insulin is in the pump. The first thing I'm going to do to demonstrate is to turn the light on the pump, and that is, you can see that's on the down arrow. The basic features: you have your B, which is a quick bolus, escape, or your back arrow, which will take you back one step, your act button, which will make that selection or choose that option. You have your up arrow and your down arrow to either scroll through increase or decrease numbers, or scroll through various menu options. The first thing I'm going to do to make the screen a little bit easier to see is to press my down arrow, which is the backlight. The first thing we want to know how to do is give a bolus, and there are several ways to do that. You can touch the quick bolus, which is this little arrow in the B, and all you have to do, most pumps now are called smart pumps, so all you have to do is tell the pump what the blood glucose is, or the pre-meal blood glucose. So we're going to, in this example, we're going to use 153. And then you press, when you have reached the number that you want, you press act. You enter the food grams. If you're taking insulin at meal times, you would use how many grams of carbs. And I'm going to, for an example, I'm just going to use 20. You press enter, and the pump will give you the settings have already been entered into the pump. That in this example you need 2.5 units. There's 20 grams of carbs. Your blood glucose is 153. You can see this little arrow down here. That means that there is some more information down below. So for the food, you need 2.85. For the correction, you need 0.50. For the active insulin, there is nothing remembering a previous bolus that had been given before. Press act to proceed. So in this case, all you need to do is press act. It's giving you an estimate of 2.90. You press act, and then the pump will deliver in hundredths of units of 5/100ths of a unit of insulin for every beep. And I'll just turn the light back on. There may be some lines in the screen that appear on the video, but you do not get that in real life. You notice how long it's taking for the insulin to get delivered, and this will make it much more comfortable for younger children or people who don't have a lot of subcutaneous tissue, because the insulin is being delivered very, very slowly. the pump beeped, the insulin delivery is finished, and then the pump goes back to sleep. A few items that you notice on the top of the pump. This on the very top right is how much insulin, a visual on how much insulin is left in the pump. You will have your time in AM and PM, and on the very top right is the battery feature, and all three bars are full, so we know that we have plenty of battery features. If you want to give a bolus, a correction bolus where you have a higher than target blood sugar, but you're not going to eat anything, you do the same way. You can do the same way. Press the B button. No, I'm gonna skip that. I'm going to turn the light on. To give a correction bolus, you can go to the B. It remembers the blood sugar that was recently entered, and we're just going to use a different example. We'll use just a different example of a 140. But if you're not going to have any grams of carbs, you would just pass this by and just press ACT, because there's no carbohydrates being given. So you're just correcting for a blood sugar of 140. Now, in a lot of people's books, 140 isn't an elevated blood sugar, but with a pump, it does allow you to give insulin to correct. But because we just gave some insulin, it's not recommending any insulin because there's still insulin on board. So we press ACT to proceed, and it's recommending 0. So we are going to, we can just pass that by, so we're going to press the escape key. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that bolus was delivered. So you can press ACT to get to your main menu. I'm going to turn the light on first. Press ACT to get to the main menu. We're going to check and see a bolus, so we're going to look under the bolus option. So we're going to press ACT, and the bolus history is at the very bottom of this screen. So we're going to activate bolus history, and the last bolus, it gives the date and time, and details about how much insulin was delivered. So we can go down previous boluses and just continue to use your down arrow. The other thing that we want to do, that's important to know how to do with a pump, is suspend and resume. So you wake up your pump. You can go down to suspend. It says suspend, press ACT to stop the pump, so we're going to suspend it. The pump beeps a little bit. It will continue to beep every few minutes, just to remind you that with that little tone that it's not delivering any insulin. We also know that the pump is suspended because there's this little black this black filled dot, and that means that no insulin is delivering. You may get that black dot when you also have an empty cartridge, a dead battery, anything that is going to interfere with the pump giving insulin. You can see that the pump went back to sleep, but we still have that black arrow. To restart the pump, we're going to wake up the pump. It says that the pump was stopped at 11:21. We press ACT. And then ACT again to resume, and the pump is working, and you notice that circle is gone. There may be times that you get an open circle, and the open circle means that the pump is running and giving insulin just at something other than its normal usual amount. That might be using a temporary basal rate. So to set a temporary basal rate, again, you press the ACT button. We are going to go down to your basal option, press ACT to select that, and the first option is to set and edit a temporary basal rate. So we're going to choose that option. We can set the duration anywhere from 30 minutes to 12 hours. In this example, I'm going to do 2 hours. And once I get to 2 hours, you press enter. And then you get a choice of how much insulin to change it by. 100% is the normal, usual amount of insulin that is being administered by the pump. If you need less insulin, you can use your down arrow, and it will go in 1% increments all the way down to 0. You can also, if there's an occasion that you need more of a basal rate for illness or a cold or menstrual cycle, you can also use the up arrow and then go above your 100% to 110, 120%. In this example, I'm going to use an increase of 120%, and we see that we have this open circle, which means that the pump is giving insulin. It's working as it should be, but there's something kind of new or different, or that just gets your attention that it's doing something a little bit different. If you increase that basal rate, but then the blood sugar comes down and you don't need it anymore, to cancel the basal rate, you wake up the pump. You again use your down arrow to go to your basal option. You press your act button, and you can see that one line down from where it drops you is cancel temp basal. We're going to go down to that cancel temp basal, press act, and the pump is now functioning normally because we don't have any open circles or closed circles. There's again to check for any alarms that could have happened. Most pumps will, if there's a problem, it will tell you in real words. It won't be any kind of a confusing code or anything like that. So to do that, we will I pressed escape to have everything black out. I'm going to press my light button. I'm going to press act. And you go down to your utilities feature, you press your enter key or your act button, and you can go down to the alarms, and the first option is alarm history. So we can press act, and these are all the alarms that have been on the pump previously. And you can see that this arrow up here is at the very top, meaning that there's more information down below here. So I will just scroll through, and you can see all the alarms of when they happened and what they were, and you can bring to the attention of the medical staff if the pump was alarming. A lot of times it will be because the cartridge is getting empty of insulin, your battery power is getting low and it needs to be changed, or you're using a temporary basal rate. So those are the really very basic features about how to use a Medtronic insulin pump. And if you have any other questions, you can call the company, or you can talk to your medical team.